viewers. This is one of these election night times. I got the TV going. Sorry for the background noise, but going to keep that going. So, a couple things here. This is kind of a dispatch, but it's on the progress and liberty. I hope I named it right. All right, so the real subject for me, not the real subject, but the focus is this idea of pushback, and it's just one of many things, but conservatives are always warning progressives about pushback. Oh, he says he's a socialist. There'll be pushback. There'll be a reaction, in other words, that it'll have a countervailing force in the end because people will react to it and push back against it, and so it's going to be counterproductive. Don't be saying you're socialist or a million other examples. Don't say homosexuals should be able to get married. Call it something lighter. Don't say Black Lives Matter. That's too harsh. They should be saying all lives matter, and so on. Now, there's truth, obviously, to the principle of pushback. Everybody knows it. There's plenty of leftists, let's just call them. I don't know if it would count as progressive. That thought, it's just as well. Have Trump, and they'll push back, and then there'll be a revolution, then there'll be a this, then there'll be a that. I don't think that's a very good way to think, even though it's true, there is a pushback, but it's just kind of, it's a volatile kind of situation. Like if you're trying to push over an old rotten tree and you push it that way because you want it to go this way. For one thing, you push it that way to make it go this way, you're underneath it. But the other thing is you got to rock it. Yeah, you'd have to go back in your direction a little bit, but then you're going to really push it. I mean, it's an unstable metaphor, so forget the metaphor. Thinking about realistic situation, conservatives don't seem to realize there is a pushback both ways. And it's not just the left and right thing. These rioters, I know Trump wants to pin all of that on Democrats, and, fair game if you can do that. But the practical reality is that when Democrats, we should all agree, are pro-government right now. More than me, I believe the government has a role. But they, I think it's fair to say, are pro-government, right? And so they're not behind the establishment of autonomous zones like you would have in, Copenhagen or something. That's a different force. Left or right, yeah, it could be left or right. It could also be, neither. And the forces that do rioting are neither. But if you're going to be pushing back between these two factionary partisan forces, and they're just focused on, make the liberals cry tears that we drink, or they're stupid stable geniuses, and you're pushing back and forth. And I'm not criticizing either of those things. These are all natural occurrences. I'm just saying the dynamics of what happens necessarily in a situation like this as it goes on and on and on. You have these two pushing back at each other, and they're in power positions because it's represented by both parties, and it creates this chaos where the two stabilizing forces that are the establishment are distracted, fighting each other, and you're going to get rioting in the streets. And it's almost, I would say almost, it's basically non-ideological. I'll say almost because, yeah, there's an ideological bent to it. If a bunch of people take over that Oregon refuge with guns, yeah, there was an ideological bent to that. But what really enables that sort of thing, especially when it's getting out of hand, is the general chaos between the forces that normally stabilize, for better or worse, through oppression or carrots or sticks or however they're doing it, besides how that's working. When they stop doing that and battle each other, there's room for chaos. And because of the ideological component that remains, there's a lot of kind of cover for various kinds of specific chaos and violence. such as riots and stuff, which doesn't really do the ideological protesters. It doesn't help the protesters that, that Banana Republic, is that still a store, gets broken into and stole. The cheese factory has all its cheesecake stolen. That doesn't really do any good for anybody. Now, the right wing could say, well, it's good for us because it looks bad and there'll be pushback. But that's not a very big win. That's like, I don't know. You can meme off of it. I've shown the picture of the stolen cheesecakes a lot, but it doesn't seem very productive. And for the leftists, they're like, oh, we're stealing cheesecake from the capitalists. Not really going to help, obviously, any sort of program of pushing back against the leniency about police brutality. And I wouldn't even say police brutality is near as rampant as it could be, or is in a police state, or in a state where the cops are so corrupt that everybody knows you're supposed to bribe them if you don't want to go to jail when you get pulled over for a ticket. In these kinds of situations, it's not anywhere near as bad as that, right? So there's no reason to act like we have the resort of just cracking down. If you crack down, you see real pushback. And I think a lot of people, especially on the right, don't understand. They think there's a crazy mob. They think they'd win a civil war because the other side is wimps, and they know that because they're arguing with them. And look at Schumer or something. Oh, I would take him in a civil war. Yeah, but there's these groups of rioters, not to mention out and out daily criminals. Like, rioters can be opportunistic, people with day jobs or something, slightly criminal, sticky fingered, or who knows, even just like totally under control until it seems like it's not, and then they go take part in what's going on, like you see there's YouTubers doing. And just go along kind of people is what I'm saying. But all of these people, once they come out of the woodwork, the least of it is a Wendy's burned with nobody living in it. What about when they start roaming through neighborhoods? You think that can't happen? Just look at the history of the world. It can and has happened. And our thoughts that we're past that stage of history, that's all on us to make come true. There's no necessary a rule of that. History is the thousands of years of written history coming to now. There's no evidence that's over, because at best we would hope that it's over in, I don't know, the United States or other industrialized nations. So, and people are just unrealistic. When Trump is faced with loss, and it could be the loss in 2020 hopefully, or if he gets another 4 years and there's some sort of, like, he does get impeached and convicted and they try to kick him out, or even it's just the end of his second term. We don't know what he's going to do, but especially if he's going to set up that it's a big fraud if he loses in 2020, I think it probably won't lead to a civil war if he plays some game about how it was rigged and he shouldn't have to leave. Because I think he'll probably make a big noise and then step away like not like everybody, but, in his own way, the last moment kind of thing, and try to segue it into a big, a big complaint that could trigger them forever about how unfair it was that he lost the election or whatever. Would it cause a civil war? Probably not. But the point is, if we get in a situation like that, we have to be the ones that want it to not be a civil war, right? And the idea that a civil war would, finish it up. No. When a country split 50-50, you got to just face facts that even if you are a brutal Nazi-type person, you're not going to eliminate the other half. And however hard you crack down, you need to measure how much absolute control you really have in a modern world where a lot of people understand how things work, right? They understand freedom enough that we're not going to go back in time and have people go, oh, I guess I wasn't supposed to be free. That is a better person than me. We already have an egalitarian enough philosophy that that's just not how things work, okay? Now, I wanted to mention as a part of that I always talk to a lot of conservative people, including some colleagues lately, sort of as an experiment because they started this politics channel that's since been closed, but we were like, from my point of view, seeing if that was possible to discuss politics among colleagues, with how to get out of hand. Debatable how out of hand it got, but channel's closed now, so let's just say that. And in there, but I was still talking to those guys after that channel was closed in, more private chat. And, they're predicting AOC was going to lose. And I've seen a lot of conservatives doing that. Why? Because they want her to lose her primary. Well, looks like she's going to win her primary by a lot, which was the prediction. And it's nice to see. Now, she might lose against a Republican, but that's not really likely. So this Democratic primary is basically AOC's re-election. So, there. I know you guys like to say she's dumb and stuff. Well, I don't think so. And it doesn't really matter what you guys think, per se, does it? Now, what are you going to do about it? We're here in the country. Now, unlike a lot of other progressives, I also admit that it goes both ways. You guys are also here. So we need to work together. But the conversation is dysfunctional, and this is really why. This is why we all can't even talk philosophies and abstract things that should have nothing to do with politics, because even wearing masks and believing in science is now a politically divisive, so you might as well face facts that you're going to have to come to the table. You don't want to come to the table? Well, the only other option is that we go to this civil unrest, which we know where that goes. Either you eventually stop the civil unrest, come to the table, or it becomes a civil war. And what happens to the civil war? You fight, and eventually you have to come to the table. Why? Because even if one army wins the civil war, they're not going to kill 150 million other people, and somehow they're going to have to come to pacifying those people. And it's never 100% with some torture camp. Because when people have nothing to lose, you find out what 100, the 50 million people that are left of the losers, what kind of trouble they could cause. And it's a lot, because 1,000 people can cause a trouble. If 5,000 rioters decide to go wherever they want in LA, to Beverly Hills and the Hollywood Hills and all those places, there's no defense up there. This country's not made to for wealth and establishment to defend itself against rioting peasants with pitchforks, because it's never supposed to happen. That's why we have democracy. We're all supposed to give in to each other enough to avoid that. And I do think that's possible, but a lot of people seem to have forgotten that. And that's a big problem for a lot of people. And I know a lot of you are going to be incensed by this, by like, oh, look, you're being I'm not being a partisan. I'm just stating my position. I want to work with everybody else in this nation to find some common ground. And it could even be if things like, gun laws already. It's to the states. If we have to do that with other medical kinds of laws and things like that, I'm game. I'm at the table. But nobody could take part in the conversation. And the political divide is so bad that the people insisting on this political divide, that the only purpose is to drink the liberal tears or whatever, they've ruined every other kind of conversation. Everything's political. Believing in science, etc. It's ridiculous. These are not political issues. By making everything political, the whole conversation has become dysfunctional, new viewers. And that's basically what's going on. And here's the reality. Here's what I told those conservative colleagues or conversants, that I predicted AOC was going to win tonight. And that looks like that's happening. Another interesting one that I didn't have an opinion on, but I've been hearing about, is this guy, Elliot Engel, has been in office since 93, Democrat. He recently probably hurt himself by getting caught on a hot mic saying he wouldn't have gone to, the Black Lives event or the George Floyd event. I forget exactly, what the title of the event was, but said he wouldn't be there if he didn't have a primary challenger, which is a good reason to always primary challenge. Everybody deserves a primary challenge, I think. And Jamal Bowman, I don't know much about him, but I more or less am willing to believe that as he's cast as a progressive Democrat, has won the 16th or expected to. I don't know if he's going to win, but he's way ahead, and looks like there's a good chance that he's going to. It's only 20% reporting, but it's been this way a while. That he's going to win in the 16th congressional district. So, like AOC did last time, Jamal Bowman has just kicked out a very establishment Democrat. So there's that. Pushback. These are, I guess, the rewards for the progressives that said Trump would actually help us take over the Democratic Party. And we have to take over the Democratic Party before we can worry about the rest of the place. Now, final message. I don't believe in the Democratic Party. I think parties, in a way, inherently grow towards corruption. These are both old parties, so they've had plenty of time to get ingrown with corruption. And it's just that of the two parties, I would rather have Democrats in control of the system and all the positions, not in total control, and pressure them and fight them than I would Republicans and try to fight them. Republicans don't even believe in science. At least with the Democrats, you can make a scientific argument, and they might be obtuse because it's not profitable for as long as they can, but they will relent to those kinds of arguments and attacks over time. And you can convince and scare them with regular, like, Democratic politics. And I don't mean Democratic Party, I just mean the way politics work in a democratic republic. And you can make these arguments, and they will make political concessions as a result, just like in the normal old days, which you can't do with Republicans anymore. You used to when I was younger, even when I was in my 20s, as much as I disliked the Republican policies, you could make scientific arguments and whatnot. George H.W. Bush, you could, he would react to the data and statistics and science and political pressures and what people think about what kinds of things. And, not wanting to get in a quagmire because of the long-term political ramifications that go on for decades. But not anymore. So we're left only with Democrats. My ideal situation would be the Democrats get in power. They're going to make PR and D.C. estate, maybe the Guam and the Marianas Islands or whatever it is. Is that what it's called? And, they will have the Senate and the presidency for 30, 40 years, and they can become the Republican Party, and we'll start an actual liberal party, and in 20, 30 years, it'll be viable. How's that sound? That's the pushback thing, because you wouldn't cooperate.
Minutes ago here in Washington, protesters burning an American flag near Lafayette Park. This is just outside the White House.
Horn one, I have one comment. So the Horn one says, it seems to be that the left that has forgotten the most about giving to the other side to some degree or another. No, I totally disagree. I don't remember the left gloating for 6 years about wanting to drink liberal tears. Okay, feminazis, whatever. The right says, oh, we're all called racist. No, you're not all called racist all the time at all. We call racist things racist, but mostly nobody's saying, oh, you're all this or you're all that, and we just want to drink, and all we like to do is piss off conservatives. That's fun in itself, and blah, blah, blah. Oh, Satan, over, like Diamond and Suck. I was watching them at that Oklahoma rally at Trump's, and they're like, oh, Satan, we're going to overcome you. We're Satan, the other side. Yeah, you could think that, Horn one, because you're in a fantasy, all right? And you're going to just have to face reality the hard way through reality, because you don't seem to want to have a discussion to face the fact that you're going to have to find a middle ground. We're not going to do it all your way. And we, on the progressive side, already know we're not going to do it all our way because we don't want war and we have that. We don't want surveillance state and we have that. We don't want the gutting of the middle class and we have all of those things. We're not getting our way already. We already have to push for middle ground. And you guys don't want to have a middle ground. It's just going to be your way or the highway. So highway it is, okay?
What makes each person unique. That's why I like Liberty Mutual.
It's not Biden supporters either. I just spent a whole video telling you it's not Biden supporters either. You could call them left if you want, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you keep fomenting chaos among the established people that are all out in the open talking to each other, there will be right and left-wing violence. Okay, and there's already been also right-wing violence. We have plenty of examples, and you want to just point the fingers and say, oh, it's the other side, to have a great big pushback war, and where it goes is not really good for anybody. But you haven't figured that out, and so you don't want to come to the table because you think you're going to win that exchange. I'm not going to even be in that exchange. I'm going to stay out of it. I don't believe in violence as political change. I believe that true progress happens after the violence settles, when people are sick of violence. All right, so I have to wait until everybody's sick of violence. So, I don't know how long you guys are planning to wait. But anyway, cheers. Thanks for the comment, though. You're the only one around, so good on you. Shout out to you. Trying to be a showmaker here. So shout out to you, Horned One, for taking part. All right, cheers. I mean, if I did, I might start doing a hangout at a particular time if I thought it was worthwhile again, because I know when you do it at a particular time, either a day or week, it makes it a little easier for people, even if they don't remember just the cycle of things. And it is fun to talk to people in comments, and I still have to get through with the new streaming stuff exactly how to best do like Skype or Hangouts and audio, but I would like to do that again. And we did have some good conversations with people from all sides, which is what's interesting to me. Anyway, cheers everybody, and I will talk to you later. And yeah, the thumbnail being a picture of AOC is me trolling, but I think that's healthy. I think that's fine. I don't feel bad. I feel it's a good kind of a troll. I mean, yeah, so she triggers a lot of people. They just don't like people that, come in, win, place, or show in the Intel science fairs. Because they're anti-nerd, they're anti-geek, they're anti-science, anti-intelligence, and she's obviously so smart. So, okay, super stable genius. All right, bye.